So this headline is currently making its rounds. Bill Gates, $100 million bet on Bud Light making a comeback. Now, this is obviously clickbait, right? Because it's very doubtful that he's actually making a bet on Bud Light in particular. Because Anheuser-Busch, who owns Bud Light, owns a lot of other brands. And even though Bud Light has lost the lead as the top seller, it's been replaced by Modelo, which is a subsidiary that Anheuser-Busch owns. So they're still benefiting from all the changes. And they also own a plethora of other brands that a lot of people who are in this boycott don't realize that Bud Light is connected to through the parent company of Anheuser-Busch. So will this make a comeback? Yeah, probably. And the stock is relatively cheap. If we actually take a look at the chart for Bud, we can see that, hey, it looks like we've completed a 5-wave pattern. We've had our ABC chopped down. This stock could easily hit a 5-wave pattern to the upside from here. I would prefer to wait for that and likely trade it. This isn't really something I want to own in the long term, but if you were going to be a buyer, yeah, I mean, you're buying a historically cheap price for this company. You're only $20 off the lows, had a high of $137 back in 2016. Yeah, I mean, it's not a ridiculous thing to do. So, and I don't think it has to do at all with Bud Light in particular, making a comeback or repairing their brand. Although, you know, people's attention spans are so short. They're so short. So I imagine in a few years, no one will even remember this kerfuffle that they got themselves into. And I think this is a fine move. It makes sense to me. So now the news that a lot of people are correlating yesterday's sell-off to, and I saw a lot of people buying today's because they didn't think it was a big deal. And that's China banning iPhone use for government officials. Now, of course, this is a small population, right? This is only people who are in the Chinese government. This does mean that it could also spread some negative sentiment among the Chinese people. Like the government doesn't support or like Apple phones. They don't trust them. Maybe I shouldn't either. So, you know, it could have some greater repercussions, and that I think is what led to the greater sell-off in the stock. I also think that you could see some other countries who aren't a fan of the US, maybe some other BRICS members will decide that, hey, we also are going to start banning iPhones in favor of, you know, whatever company makes phones and their for them domestically, or, you know, so on and so forth. Now, I don't think this hurts Apple's reputation. They actually have a great reputation. There's been previous headlines of them even turning down the U.S. government when they asked to give over private data, and they actually won that lawsuit as well when it came to that. So, I mean, Apple has done a great job of making themselves known as the company that protects your privacy. So I don't think that this will change at all as far as greater negative sentiment towards the company's reputation. But nonetheless, this happened. Now, do I think that this is what actually led to the sell-off in the market? It definitely hurt Apple stock, but why is the greater market reacting with it? And I think that's actually because people are kind of missing the mark on what's going on right now. Which brings us to a headline that actually sparked my interest, and that's Walmart cutting starting pay for some new hires. This could be the turnaround for the wage inflation that we've been seeing, where there's such a shortage of workers. Companies are willing to continue to ramp up how much they'll pay these workers, which continues to ramp up the economy. A leader like Walmart, usually what they do, many other companies start to follow. We're talking about less money being paid to all these retail workers. It means there's less money to spend in the economy. And I would say that this is a relatively strong leading indicator for recession. We also got to talk about the continued ramp up in energy prices. WTI on the rise, USO, new high on the year. We're seeing the gasoline prices are rising as well. I am taking profits on this as it rallies up, because I'm concerned about a recession in the coming months. The more severe that recession is, the more it's going to kill these energy ramp ups, and it's going to turn this bull market into a bear market, because even though we have a restricted supply, if you kill demand hard enough, it's not going to be an issue, and it might self-resolve, not turn into some sort of dramatic energy crisis. It's yet to be seen, but it is a potential that I think it's important to be aware of. But keep in mind, the other potential here is that demand stays strong enough that these supply issues become a greater issue. oil then skyrockets. The U.S. has to stop exporting, using more of their imports for oil. This is actually something that we talked to Doomberg about on the podcast. If you missed that, go watch that. But it is definitely not off the table that could be a possibility as well. Now, I'm not doomsday case, $150 barrels of oil, but, to say that this rally is done, definitely, I would say not. And to the people who are saying that the sell-off recently is correlated to the Apple news, I do want to point out that the market was already weak before we got that news. We're also looking at DXY, value of the US dollar comparative to other currencies. We can see that we've actually broke to a new high on the 4-hour. And we've done it pretty aggressively out of the hole here below just 100. And we can see that, hey, if we continue to break out from here, if we get over 105, I think you're going to hear people start talking about the dollar milkshake theory once again. And if you're not familiar with the dollar milkshake theory, it doesn't play out well. It pretty much ends in a global financial crisis. Not that I'm saying that that's where we're headed. I'm just saying that conversation could start again, cause some fear to enter into the markets, especially if we continue to see DXY move so aggressively to the upside. If you want to learn more about the dollar milkshake theory, you could, of course, join the Discord. There's a bunch of free education in there, including my whole macro framework that I use to build all my theories for what's going on currently in the U.S. and international economics. And now let's talk about TLT. Our long bonds. I haven't talked about this since June because it's been a bummer. And back in June, I was saying if you see this break 104 solidly, to look for 108 and then 120. I was thinking there could be a pivot then. Instead, the Fed said nah, and the economy continued to be strong. So that trade never played out. I actually got in that trade a little bit early, ended up getting burned out. It happens when you get into trades early like that and you don't wait for your signals. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes you maximize profits that way. Sometimes you get burned. That's why if you do that, you need to start small. Just dip the toes in, see how the water feels. The water here was icy cold. No love from TLT. And it makes sense. I still don't like this, but I thought I would at least say that because I see lots of people asking about the bonds, because this will be eventually a fantastic trade, one that I will trade with options. I'm just continuing to be patient. And now let's talk about NVIDIA. I was short the stock into earnings. I thought the high could potentially already be in. That ended up not being the case, but at the same time, pretty much being the case, because the high that we saw in the after hours didn't even last until the next day. The stock has continued to sell off. I ate some pain in the short term that came right back to me. We made some great profits here at the end of the day. With the subsequent sell-off, I'm still looking for about 440 to come in. 439 is what I think we could hit. As you're seeing here, the Elliott Wave Absolute that is automatically generated by TradingView is trying to show some predictions here. That's their system, not what I use. I actually think 80% of the time this sucks. I was trying to play with it some more today, see how accurate it was, see if it could help me generate some ideas. Because remember, this is art form, not a science. So when you have an algorithm do it, most of the time they kind of suck. But we ended up having the same analysis on this stock. So I just left it up here for that reason. But when I go to a shorter time frame, don't be thinking that this is something that I've done. Let me be clear though, I've closed most of my NVIDIA short position at this point. I kept some of it open with a portion of the profits I've made because our TTM squeeze on the daily is still rolling over. Still looks overall bearish to me. Still looking for the actual 440 target. 4 hour also showing signs of continuing to be bearish. If you watched this video all the way to this point, why don't you go ahead and hit the like button? It helps so much. We've had some great growth in the channel. I got to get back to planning some future podcasts, putting some questions together. It's a lot of work, and I've been super busy doing stuff with family and stuff. That's also why there was no weekly report last week. Had a little mini vacation, took some time off. I ended up working during that anyways. And so, yeah, there's also lots of stuff in the Discord. There's a company being added to the S&P I'm excited about, so I'll make a trade there. I posted about that. There's a company I really liked that I did some research on while I was on my mini vacation, so I posted about that in the Discord as well. We also talked about some of the excitement going on in the cannabis companies and what I think is going to happen there. So make sure you follow me on X, you're in the Discord, and then you can stay informed. And make sure you check out the podcast as well. We have a new episode probably coming out Sunday. It's been kind of hard. The scheduling's been a little bit off recently. I'm going to try to get these solidified to coming out the same day each week. I will say that we might miss a few weeks in the coming future, but I'm going to try really hard not to, and to keep those as consistent as these weekly reports, which is really ironic to say when I missed last week's. But hey, sometimes I just suck, all right? I'm going to try to not miss one. I want to go like 5 years never missing a weekly report, and if this YouTube channel doesn't grow with that level of consistency that I've already maintained, I'll have no choice but to accept that I just suck. That's going to be it for this episode, though. And if you're in the pursuit of making money, bettering yourself, be the best you possible, make sure you subscribe to the channel and tell all your friends, all your family, all your extended family, those people you've talked to in forever, just randomly send them a YouTube video. It'll be funny. Anyways, bye.